working at University of the Pacific's Technology Department. I know this is an eclectic first slide. I've got 3 topics, and they're all a little short. So first, I'm going to go over my position briefly. My title is Architect Assistant, which is assistant to the technology architect. So I'm going to be going over what a technology architect does. And I'm also going to be going over some tips and tricks that I've picked up on co-op, and I think things that people who are interested in co-op may just want to hear right off the bat so they don't have to stress about them in the future. And maybe just some advice that will apply everywhere. And also I'd hopefully like to show you guys the new student portal of my Pacific, and I'm working in that quite directly, so if there's any feedback you guys have or things you're interested in using, I'm more specifically going to ask you guys a question about the groups section in the portal right now, because we're working on structuring that. So let's get right into it. The position.
You want my time?
Go ahead. So the position I am really an assistant to is a technology architect. The technology architect is a systems logistics specialist who creates, maintains, and implements IT systems for a growing business or IT firm. So essentially that involves a lot of planning ahead for the future, designing systems and diagrams that are connecting the large technology pools that industries today are comprised of. A lot of us in the room are younger, and most online systems that we are familiar with at Pacific have been here since we arrived. But what we typically don't think about is how these systems come to be. Like when the digital age began, these large systems inside the school, such as the provost and the registrar, already existed. And Pacific didn't pull together this giant team of technological strategists. No one pulled together giant teams of technological strategists because they didn't exist at that time. Everything was created organically to meet demand. Hey, we need email inboxes. All right, let's set up some servers at the school and let's put in some email servers. So we keep doing this. Individual departments are opening up their own systems. They're creating their own survey equipment, their own places to track their service requests and tickets. And then pretty soon people come to realize later on, hey, wait a minute, I want to get this thing. And then it's like, don't we have something for that already? And it's like, I don't know, I don't think it works for that specifically. So really you just end up with this huge, messy technology pool, right? And it's all sorts of large corporations have it. And really what technology architecture is focused on is structuring your organization and the technology in your department in a way that plans for the future and avoids problems before they arise. So some of the key roles are going to be designing the structure of technology systems. And one of the bigger ways that you would do this visually would be through diagramming. And these would often be pretty crucial because you use these diagrams to create the roadmaps that the developers are going to follow to implement the systems. And if those aren't specific and if those aren't correct at the right time, everyone's following a broken roadmap. Everyone's off in their little hole working on a system that's not going to come together and fit. So it's really important to make sure those pieces are laid out correctly. Another important part is the perspective that the technological architect is responsible for bringing to a project. They're supposed to have an understanding of both the business and technical points of view. Really what this means is the technological architect is going to be meeting with the business managers and the administrators and the CEOs and talking with these people and asking, what do you want? Because they're concerned with the bottom line. They're concerned with the bottom line and what they want the technology to do. But us in IT have a different perspective because we're focused on creating that system. So that has its own perspective that we need to combine these together in order to actually create a product. And most of all, teamwork is most important. You're going to be coordinating with software teams that are implementing the structures. You have to make sure that everyone's, like I said, pieces are going to fit together in the very end. And so there's a lot of really networking and just really overseeing the design process. Like I said, I was mentioning perspective before, and the business perspective is the bottom line. What exactly do you want people, what is the business concerned with? here at University of the Pacific, it's a nonprofit. So technically the bottom line is giving the highest quality education possible. But regardless of that, the bottom line, the business perspective is going to be concerned with the bottom line. Whereas the technical perspective, they're going to be asking for, they're asking for Disneyland, right? And we're starting with a bunch of wooden tools. They don't really know exactly what technology, okay, this is the right comparison. Let me start over with that. They don't know exactly what technology is capable of. You know what I mean? They don't know that everything's going to be organized into directories. They just want the magic to happen. So they're going to ask for the product, and we have to figure out how to make that happen. And really, in like large systems, for example, service requests, people, who's in charge of making sure that, who's in charge of receiving incident reports, who's in charge of dealing with them, and who has the permission to deal with some of them. These are all things that have to be considered. And also, really, there's the client perspective at the end of it. The client is really just trying to get there. The client can be really anyone who's involved in the organization. So not only, I guess for Pacific we could say students, but faculty would be considered clients as well, because you want the software to work for them. They need to be able to perform their job effectively. So now I guess go over a couple of the skills. One of the biggest ones is communication. You need to be able to form strong rapport with people, because I mean you're gonna be meeting with people all of the time, and if you're tired of them and you're bored of them, it's gonna be hard to listen to them. So like really working on your ability to form relationships with other people, and also clear documentation is something I feel is extremely critical, especially here on a co-op. You have to think to yourself, in this position like I'm in, I'm only going to be here for 5 to 9 months. So all the work anything I write down, who's going to be able to use that once I'm gone? All this work I'm doing, like is it just going to get left behind on my projects? And really, ideally, you'd want to create a structure solid enough that if you were like gone, if you just left your work behind, someone could pick it up. And that would just be, I think that's just like I think that's just a good personal goal for how to structure your information. So you could always come back to it in case you forgot. Anyways, let's moving on. Anticipation, I mentioned before, being able to anticipate problems before they become real issues in the organization. This really just comes with like planning around problems that have been seen in the future. And this is something that does come a bit more with experience. As well in technology. So like this is a sort of position that you probably couldn't look to straight out of college, but it's one that you could shoot for, like thinking about in the future, like, hey, I don't really like programming a whole lot, but I like working with people. So what if I just focused on being the best at coordinating projects and organizing the architecture? So that's really where anticipation would play in. And same with, being a strategist, the ability to plan ahead. They go together. And being a great aggregator, the ability to assimilate information to be shared with others is a serious skill, because you're going to be talking to a lot of people. You're going to be talking to the CEOs, you're going to be talking to the business department, you're going to be talking to the faculty that are having an issue with your software. You're going to be talking to your developers who have been buried in the database for the past 3 weeks and haven't seen another human. It's really, you get a lot of different perspectives that you need to communicate with. And really being able to assimilate all this information together and being a source where people can come to a central person to get information on almost anything, get connected with anyone, it's very vital. It really helps things move along. And clear documentation too really goes with being a great aggregator. You are documenting all this together and you want it in a single place where everyone can come to get it. So people shouldn't even have to ask you for things at the end of the day. It should just be, well, you know where to find it. Go find it yourself. So next I was going to do co-op tips, just some things I guess that would apply to most areas in life, but I picked up applied specifically to co-op. First, get organized. You're going to work a lot faster once you know where to find people and your resources. A good place to start is your email inbox, because you already have one. And folders, automated rules, these are all great things that you can set up to really just sort the feed of stuff that's going to be coming in. At work especially, there's going to be all kinds of different things showing up in your inbox, events, a different, like every email has a different subject, and you sort of have to, they're just all going to get caught up in your feed. You're going to receive 10, 20 emails a day at least. So really get those organized as soon as possible. LinkedIn Learning, we all have LinkedIn Learning for free, by the way, as students, and you can go find that online. I also have a link here in the slides, but to a Gmail Essential Training that'll basically go through a walkthrough of all the features that Gmail has to help you get organized and stay ahead. One of my favorites is Schedule Send, which allows you to set a time that your emails deliver so your professors don't know when you wrote the email. Sometimes you're up to your night shenanigans, you know? Sometimes you're cramming. So, and anyways, your files too, you know? Sort your projects. You might as well have these files organized. It's for yourself, because you're gonna have to come back to these eventually, you know? And like I mentioned before, you're only gonna be at this job for like 5 to 9 months. So any like work or documentation you leave behind, well, first off, if I ever want to go back to any of my work, I want to know exactly where to find it. It should be easy, right? And anything you do at your job could be something you put on your resume, get you another job. So if you got that on record, you can pull up your receipts anywhere you go. Also, be easy to work with, you know? So I guess I was talking about communication, you know, people are unavoidable. You're not going to be able to go through life without developing some basic level of communication skills. Like, we all are just going to have to talk to people. And we only get people are social creatures. We get things done when we work together. And in that regard, we just have to develop those skills. And another thing to consider in a job perspective is that not everyone is going to speak tech. We spend a lot of our time here, like at school, like we're in college, we're surrounded by everyone. All of our classmates are in computer science. So everyone we're talking to about computer science knows what that is. Then you get into the job force and you're like working with a teacher and she's doesn't even like know how, she's barely managing she's struggling with her email inbox. And then it's like, well, I have to, I guess, I have to be careful with my wording and make sure that I can explain things clearly so I never mislead her, but still keep it simple and accurate. And also, another thing I wanted to say for people who are like who have applied for co-ops or are in the middle of applying for it, just relax. Like, especially in your interview. Like, people are just people in the end. These are going to be your coworkers in the future. And if you've had a job before, like, it's just a dude that you show up to work with every single day. And really, they want you to be a person as well. All the interviewers want to ask you is, are you teachable? And are you guys going to get along? Because if you can do that, if you can be teachable and you can get along with their staff, they'll teach you whatever you need to know. Because really, as long as you can get along with everyone, you're going to be able to work in a team. And that's the most important thing. And that's where people are able to get things done. And most of you are already surviving in college. You already work with people all the time, like successfully, unsuccessfully, but you get your projects in. You're all in this room right now. You know, like you've made it through some form of schooling. You've accomplished some level of discipline and technical skill. And really, you guys, as long as you work on making sure you are able to teach yourself, you should be able to teach yourself anything. Thank you.